You're already late. Not in 5 minutes. Already. The person waiting for you just checked their phone for the third time, and somewhere in that small silence, they decided you don't think they're important. You're about to text, "Sorry, traffic was insane." The traffic was fine. You left your house 8 minutes ago, and you knew when you left that this would happen, because it always happens. And the question that sits underneath all of it, the one you've never quite let yourself ask out loud, is this. If you actually care about these people, if it actually matters to you, then why can't you stop doing this? Because the easy answer is the one everyone gives you. You don't care enough. You're selfish. You're disorganized. But research keeps pointing somewhere stranger. In 2001, San Francisco State psychology professor Jeff Conte ran an experiment that should have made more noise than it did. He asked participants to feel out when 1 minute had passed without looking at a clock. Type A personalities, the punctual ones, stopped at around 58 seconds. Type B personalities, the chronically late ones, didn't notice a minute had ended until 77 seconds in. That's nearly a 20-second gap on a single minute. Now, stretch that across getting ready, across a commute, across a whole morning. You're not ignoring time. You're not even being careless with it. Your brain is literally measuring it on a different scale than the people around you, and it's been doing it your entire life without telling you. There's a name for this: time blindness. It comes out of Dr. Russell Barkley's work on executive function, and it isn't a metaphor. It's a measurable difference in how the brain perceives duration. For some people, time is a grid, segmented and visible. 10 minutes feels like 10 minutes. For others, time is a fog, where 10 minutes and 40 minutes can occupy the same emotional weight, and the brain really only registers two settings: now and not now. Which raises a darker question. If this is happening underneath your awareness, in the wiring itself, then how much of this is even yours to control? More than you think, but not in the way you've been trying. Because the second mechanism is uglier, and it's the one nobody warns you about. It's called the planning fallacy, identified in 1979 by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. Your brain doesn't build time estimates from average experience. It builds them from best-case memory. The one shower that took 8 minutes, not the 15 that took 18. The one drive with no traffic, not the 4 with a school bus in front of you. Every morning, you are being quietly lied to by your own memory, and you keep believing it because the lie feels like optimism. You're not bad at planning. You're trapped inside a brain that edits its own evidence in your favor.
And then it gets worse, because your brain, the same one losing track of time and editing its own data, is also rewarding you for cutting it close. When you're almost late, something switches on. Focus sharpens. Adrenaline rises. The fog clears for the first time all morning. And your brain quietly files that away as, "This is when I work best." That's not a story you're telling yourself to feel better. The neurochemistry backs it up. You've spent years training yourself, without knowing it, to need the edge of disaster to function properly. Which sounds almost like a flex, until you remember who's paying for it. Because the cost of all this isn't carried by you. It's carried by the person sitting alone at the restaurant, the friend standing outside the venue checking their phone, the partner who arrived 10 minutes early because that's what they do. And what gets through to them, no matter what you meant, is a quiet sentence that lands harder than you realize. I wasn't worth being on time for. You didn't send that message, but that's the one being received, again and again, in small, invisible installments. And it's worth sitting with that honestly, before the science lets you off the hook too easily.
But here's where the picture flips, because there's something else in this same brain that the punctual people genuinely don't have. People who run chronically late are very often the people who are most absorbed in whatever is happening right now. They got pulled into the conversation. They got lost in the task. They couldn't quite tear themselves out of the moment they were already inside to start preparing for the moment that was coming. The same brain that fails at clock watching is the brain that disappears into painting, into writing, into a problem nobody asked them to solve. Time blindness and deep absorption live in the same nervous system. You don't get one without the other. And research on type B personalities has consistently linked them to higher creativity, higher optimism, and lower rates of stress-related cardiac disease. They're not winning at scheduling, but quietly, on a longer timeline, they may be winning at something else. So the question isn't really, how do I stop being late? The question almost everyone gets wrong is the one underneath it. Because if your lateness is a side effect of how deeply you live inside the present, then the real problem isn't the trait. It's that you've been trying to fix it by removing the wiring instead of working with it. Buffers, hard departure times, alarms set 15 minutes early. These things help. They help because you're doing manually what your brain refuses to do automatically. But they're scaffolding around something you were never going to outgrow. And the goal was never to become someone else. The goal is to stop bleeding out the cost of who you already are onto the people who love you.
And here's the part that almost nobody says out loud. The shame you carry about this, the quiet belief that running late means you're a bad friend, an unreliable partner, a thoughtless person at your core, that shame is doing more damage than the lateness itself. Because shame keeps you locked in the same loop. You feel guilty, you avoid thinking about it, you don't build the systems, you run late again, you feel guiltier. The people who actually break this pattern aren't the ones who hate themselves harder. They're the ones who finally understand what they're working with and stop trying to punish a brain that was never going to respond to punishment in the first place. You're not selfish. You're not careless. You are someone whose brain measures time differently, gets pulled into the present so completely that the future quietly slips, runs on optimism that betrays you and urgency that fuels you. The lateness was never the real story. The real story is that nobody ever explained your own brain to you, so you spent years assuming the problem was your character. It wasn't. It was an architecture you didn't choose, running in the background, doing exactly what it was built to do. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, consider becoming a channel member. I've got more videos coming on the patterns of behavior nobody explains clearly enough. I'll see you in the next one.